This week we're talking about one of my favorite topics, and that is forever foods. What we mean by that is any food that should stay shelf stable for at least 30 years or somewhere in that vicinity or even longer. A couple of these will last for centuries according to history and what others have told us. So let's just get started. It amazes me that God would make anything so delicious that would last forever, and I'm thankful for that. But can you believe that sugar and salt are two of the most commonly used for sweetening and making our food savory, and both of these are shelf stable for indefinite periods of time. So those are some of the things you would want to absolutely have available to you. Let me say right off the bat, I'm going to encourage that every single thing like this that you purchase, though, you take out of its plastic packaging and put in some sort of glass packaging with a glass or a metal roof on it, cap, okay? That will be for everything I say. But sugar and salt. Also, would you believe corn syrup? Now, some folks say, well, we shouldn't have corn syrup anyway, but because it is shelf stable and something that's used in cinnamon rolls and some other amazingly delicious foods, it's worth having a good bottle of corn syrup somewhere in your cupboard. I've also got raw honey here, and literally, God made any honey to be shelf stable. The kind that you want, though, that's going to have the most nutritional quality is going to be raw, unfiltered honey. So if you can, that's the kind you want to get. And again, you're going to put it in a glass container if it isn't already. Yay! Peanut butter. For all of you peanut butter lovers out here, thank the Lord that peanut butter is pretty shelf stable for up to 30 years. So make sure you've gotten some. It has great protein and it's something that most of us love as a special treat. All right, moving on over to this. One of the most common flavors that we use in the kitchen is vanilla, and the only thing that you have to remember is you can't use vanilla extract that is imitation or any variety except for pure real vanilla extract, and you can get it in small or big bottles. My favorite is this Mexican vanilla that is just somehow, to me, tastier than any other I've had. But you want to make sure you get pure vanilla made with real vanilla beans, and you want to store it in some sort of glass container with a glass or metal lid, or cork, but glass or metal would be best. Thank the Lord again for another yummy one. This is maple syrup, and I can't tell you how delicious that starts becoming. The more you use it, the more you'll want to use it. Maple syrup can give your coffee a wonderful flavor. It's great for all of your breakfast foods and breakfast cereals. This is just a wonderful sweetener with excellent flavor and so many things you can do with it. So get yourself some good maple syrup. Incidentally, this one, it's in a fancy bottle. They had it on sale for like $4, which is a ridiculous price for maple syrup. So I picked up about 7 or 8 bottles of it at the time that I bought this one, just because normally this should cost somewhere between $7 to $10. So in the event that you find real good maple syrup cheap, boy, grab it up when you have a chance. Let me move back here to this vinegar, and I'll just say either kind of vinegar is shelf stable indefinitely. This is apple cider vinegar with the mother you see there at the bottom, which just means it has those little bits of stuff down there in the bottom of it. You can home make your own apple cider vinegar, which is just wonderful to do, and we'll do it on another video. But in the event that you need to buy it, it's relatively inexpensive and it lasts forever. And also distilled white vinegar. This one's almost used up here that I've got, but this will also last forever. So either kind, you just want to stock up on vinegar for everything from your food to cleaning and health and all kinds of different ways you're going to need vinegar in the days to come. All right, let's move down here. This is one of our first grains. This is popcorn. And let me just say, when we say that popcorn is indefinitely good, that's great for us to say, but let me just tell you, it does not mean the bagged microwave popcorn that you can get. We would love for that to be shelf stable, but it's not. This is just plain old Orville Redenbacher popcorn with nothing on it, and I'm going to store it in some sort of a glass container with a little oxygen absorber in there so that it lasts longer. but this should stay on your shelf indefinitely. Now, some would argue that this is not a food at all. This is just black tea. I just want to remind you that in the event that you are a lover of coffee and teas or anything like that, you're going to be thankful that you remembered to store some of this. And the more you can get the kind that has whole leaf and big chunky spices in it, the better you're going to be for the long run. And again, stored in a glass container. All right, cornstarch. Don't get a close-up of this because it's pretty messy. I've been cooking with this one, so it's got some crud on the front of the box. But cornstarch lasts indefinitely, and you're going to use it in cooking. It can also be used as a great body powder or even on your face, and it's good for you, and it's going to be shelf-stable indefinitely. Now let's go back here to soy sauce. I've actually gotten a little upgrade from soy sauce. This is, you see it called liquid aminos, and by Bragg they do some wonderful different products you might want to look into if you haven't already heard of them. They make great apple cider vinegar and stuff like that. But this is soy sauce, and it should last indefinitely because of the high salt content in it, and it's just a good flavor for your foods. Next, dry milk is indefinitely shelf stable. However, let me just say, you do not want to store it the way I've got it. I've got it in like this paper box with just a paper outside shell on it. This is not going to last long. Ideally, what kind of dry instant milk you want is going to be packed in a can, believe it or not, in a nitrogen packed can. That will last indefinitely. So remember, not this version, but dry milk that's packed in nitrogen packed can. Okay, next up we have this wonderful blue ball jar from my grandmother full of what looks to be beautiful, wonderful pemmican that I have made. But incidentally, this is the grossest batch in the world. So be thankful you're not here in the room trying to taste test this with me. I messed up on this batch. So on a different video, we'll make good hardtack. And if it's made the right way, it's actually a mix of like pulverized beef and tallow and berries. The Indians used to carry it in their packs with them, and the old cowboys of the West, and it lasts a long time and has excellent protein. But this batch I ruined because I tried to get extra adventuresome in my recipe, and I don't recommend that because you will regret it just like I do. Next to it, we have ship's biscuits, or you've heard this called hardtack. I made two versions here. Let me hold up both jars so you can see them. One is made with white flour and one is made with whole wheat flour. Incidentally, the whole wheat flour right here is going to not last as long. This is to be shelf stable indefinitely, but the whole wheat flour has more oil in it, and the more oil that you get in it, the less likely it's going to last forever. And also, just if you're wondering, some of those little silica gel packs I have in the background, those are just to kind of absorb any moisture that might accidentally get into the jars. We'll make some of this in another video as well. All right, next, a flavor enhancer that you can get. I just want to say this is not the right version. You actually want the little square cubes of bouillon. I actually went to the store today to get some of the little cubes to show you on this video, and the only kind I could find at Publix today were with the ingredient monosodium glutamate, or MSG, and I don't want you to get that. I would rather you just go with flavorless food than get monosodium glutamate, which is a flavor enhancer, but it's also very bad for you. This brand specifically does not have MSG in it, so I recommend it. However, this is a liquid, and this will not last forever like the little hard cubes will. So go out and look for the little hard cubes of beef and chicken bouillon. Okay, this is that wonderful product that you may have seen the video on, how to make ghee, and that's Ghee. I absolutely love it. This is a fresh batch, so it's still liquidy, but normally it will be solid. This is clarified butter, also known as liquid gold or ghee, and this is absolutely wonderful, shelf stable, because the water has been taken out of it, as well as the milk solids. So it makes it this wonderful, rich, nutty butter taste, exceptionally strong flavor of butter that you're going to absolutely love, and that's ghee. So you want to have some of that on your shelf. Also, dried beans, that's an easy one. We've been through that before. Of any old jars that you have laying around, you notice this jar even has a lid that doesn't seal well. That's okay. Any extra jars you have around the house that are there for looks, just fill them up with dried beans. It's one of the easiest and simplest ways that you can be prepared of just storing beans in all those extra old jars you've got. And then over here, my mother would disapprove of this part of the video, but I'll tell you, hard liquors actually last forever. And so the only one of these that I've actually found useful for myself, I believe, is this one. Yeah, this is handmade vodka. Vodka is going to be extremely helpful for like making a little atomizer if you wanted to have a perimeter around your house to keep the bugs away, the ants away. You just mix a little bit of peppermint oil with this and spritz it around. But these are also good for other things as well, in cleaning agents, bartering and trading. But it's good to have hard liquor on your shelf, just a bit of it, even if you're not someone who uses it regularly like me. Mom, you're going to have to forgive me on this video. All right, next we've got, and almost last, white rice. Don't do what I did. I wanted it to look pretty on my shelf, and I like the flavor of white rice mixed with dark rice and quinoa and basmati, or I don't know even how you say all the different kinds, but I always like going and buying multiple kinds of rice, mixing them all together in this, and then I just take a scoop out every time I need to. Well, that's great for now, but all the dark rices like long grain wild rice, those have too much oil content in them to be shelf stable forever. So really you just want to get white rice like you see over here, just plain old white rice that is going to be in a nice bag, and I'll store it in a glass jar with a little oxygen absorber, and that should last forever. Now, the last thing I just want us to cover is a couple of things we wish would last forever or almost do, but may or may not be recommended. One of those things is any kind of canned foods. They do last a whole long time, much longer than the date that you see on them. So you can be assured that it's probably okay if you're in need and you find some canned food, go ahead and help yourself most of the time. The risk is on you, not me. But you notice when I do buy canned foods, I do try to get the little pop tops just because it's easier, and in the event that there was an emergency and I needed to grab some and go, a pop top makes it sure easier than having to have it with a can opener. A lot of folks would argue the pros and cons of anything that's canned like this, so use your own discretion and judgment, but some folks will say those last indefinitely. Also, I'm just going to mention spices here because I want to. Spices as well as teas, like I was mentioning earlier, are shelf stable much longer if you leave them in the whole version. Like this is this is whole black pepper, and it has the little lovely balls of black pepper in there, and that's the way you want to keep it. It's going to last a whole lot longer than already ground pepper, and all the other spices like cloves will last much longer if you keep them in a whole version. Even this is chopped garlic, and boy, you want to grow it in your garden and have it fresh as much as possible. But if you're storing it, have as close to a full clove of garlic as you can dried like that, because it's going to keep everything, the nutrients and the flavor, a whole lot longer. Now, some folks are going to tell you that this top ramen is going to be indefinitely shelf stable. And I've done my own research, and I cannot prove that it is, nor condone it for you to get it. It is delicious, it's heartwarming, and it's cheap food that you could stock up in your pantry. But really, as far as being shelf stable indefinitely, it's got it's got tons of bad ingredients that are supposed to preserve it forever. But it is a pasta type product that just isn't shelf stable indefinitely. Also, just a reminder again, movie popcorn, no, it doesn't last forever. Only the other kind does. Also, cornmeal. You might have wished that cornmeal was, because if popcorn is, why wouldn't cornmeal be? And no, it doesn't cut it. I don't have an example of it, but also I was hoping that Irish oats, the kind that are the groats or steel cut oats, I thought they would last forever, and no, they're only 2 to 3 years at the most. Coffee, of course I hoped it lasts forever, but it doesn't even last for a couple of months without going bad, so forget coffee. And then I was hoping spaghetti would last forever, and it doesn't. It's just not shelf stable more than a year or two in the form that you get it. So after you've looked at all this, you've got at least 21 items that you can choose from that are going to last up to 30 years, and even some of them 50 or 100 or 200 years. And there are examples of those through history. But do your own research, check out what other people say and what you've actually seen true examples of before believing all the hype. There are a million videos out there on YouTube that show Twinkies last forever and some different foods like that I just can't ever recommend, or would I want to prove that? I don't think I would want to eat a 100-year-old Twinkie anyway. So I hope this gets you started on what to start putting into your pantry. You don't need to hoard them, but I would have a good supply. And I hope that this video has blessed you in your preparations that you're making as a PrepSteader.